Okay, so what we have here is all the parts that we're going to use for today's project, along with a sneak peek for next episode's project. So we have the Alpine radio, along with the amplifier, the dash kit, and all of the wiring components that we're going to need. For a complete parts list, just check out the description down below. So this is a little view of what radio is currently installed. As you can see, it's pretty stock. I don't have a USB cord or anything like that. All I have is a CD player. Can't really do much with that, so oh, there it goes, there it goes. Down she goes. All right. Found it. Okay. Oh, look at that. She slid right out. It's another blooper. Okay, so we just have to unplug. And foot. Never mind. There it goes. So here we have the Alpine radio. You can see that it's equipped with Apple Play, which is really huge for me. I'll be able to listen to my music. It'll be integrated directly with my phone, so I'll be able to get my maps, which is also a big deal for me. My sense of direction sucks. So in the box we have the manual, the electronic components, wires and such, and fasteners. So what's unique about this particular radio is that it actually comes with an amplifier, which actually mounts to the back of it. So let's go ahead and move these aside carefully. Go ahead and unbox the amplifier.
So same thing. I think in terms of packaging is pretty sturdy. It's not as intense as the radio, but it's not as sensitive as the radio, so that's fine. I wouldn't expect them to use heavy duty packaging for, say, the mount. Cool. So the next step is going to be to mount the amplifier to the radio, but we're going to have to attach the amplifier to the bracket first, and then once that's assembled, then we can go ahead and mount it on the radio itself. So okay, that goes that way. So even for me, I wasn't sure about the orientation, but they did a really good job about lining up the holes. So because there's 3 holes with the slot, I know that this is the proper orientation. So that's nice. It's error mistake proofed. I have 3 fasteners and there's 4 fasteners, 3 holes. I'm a little concerned there. We're gonna figure it out. Go ahead and just partially fasten just to make sure it's properly aligned. Secure them fully. It looks good. Okay, that's still pretty snug there. So the next step is actually on the 4th hole. So there we go. I would have been fine with 3, but you know. So just by lining up the bracket to the radio, I can see that these 2 fasteners are going to come out so I can secure them. But another thing that you have to be cognizant of is once you install the bracket onto the radio, you're going to lose accessibility to a lot of these connections here. So what I'm going to need to connect will be this power source and then also the USB. So USB, and this is the black one. So smaller screwdriver for smaller screws. Put these over here so I don't lose them. USB to USB. Well, it doesn't make sense for it to go this way, but it just might. Oh, look at that. It does go that way. So, just have a little bit of concern with the wire getting kinked and whatnot, and but I'll move on. Oh, it's actually silence remote. So, put that in. I really don't like this bend here. I almost would have liked the manufacturer to route it going downward, just so you don't have like this bunching of material, but maybe, you know, they did it for a reason that I just don't know about. I feel a little bit of resistance, but it doesn't look like any of the wires are pinched or trapped or anything. So I'm just gonna go ahead and fasten the two little fasteners that I removed. Actually, this hole looks like it's winking a little bit. Might be misaligned. So as you can see here, we have a bunch of wires. The cool thing about Crutchfield is that they do provide you with somewhat of a wire splice guide. So it'll have the wire color and then its respective function. But going through the Subaru, I can see that the wiring doesn't necessarily line up. So what we're gonna do is we're just gonna look at the OEM released wiring, and then we're just gonna do labeling. That way when we come back to it, we'll just be able to plug and play essentially. So just to make our lives a little easier, I'm just gonna do some labeling. Next we have the radio bezel, and this little kit says it has the brackets included and a factory style finish. Go ahead and open it up. Okay. So dimensionally, you can see that the old radio has this angle to it, whereas the Alpine radio is square. So this bracket here is going to give it that slant, and these are going to be the brackets that we're going to use instead of the old ones. So here, the brackets just mounted directly onto the bezel. Just gonna pop her on in. Okay. Next, you're going to want to take the fasteners that came with the original radio, and you're just going to use those screws to secure it. Instructions as to which locations you should be securing it to. So this one says, oh, actually, I think it's this bottom one or this one. So I think I'm gonna have to move this one. Into this position, but it doesn't seem like it fits. I don't know for the other side. So the manual does call out for the fasteners to almost be next to one another. So one here and one right next to it. But just to make sure that the bracket is actually secured, we're actually going to go diagonal. So one here and one up here. This is how it looks. Alrighty, now that we have the new bezel with the bracket installed, we're gonna go ahead and mock it up in the radio location. So let's go ahead and do that. We're gonna go ahead and route these wires. I use the term route very loosely. That's too high. Looks good. So actually all the it looks like everything aligned, so I think, yep, looks good. Now what we're going to do is connect the wires that are already installed in the vehicle to the upgraded radio. So what I'm going to need to do is splice and remove this end here and expose the wire. Remove the terminal end here and expose the wire, merge them together, and then solder them. So I'm gonna take this and cut it. You know what I remember? Wire here.
That was funny.
Ta-da! Next, this is screen wire. We have to remove that. Just gonna set that there for now. And grabbing the yellow wire, we're just gonna slide the heat shrink through. That way, once we go ahead and solder it, we can shrink wrap it. So we've hooked up the positive, the negative, and the accessory wires. So we should be able to call on the radio. We have power. Look, it's on! And my windshields are going crazy. They're happy too. All right, look at that. This shit works. Look at that. It's prompting me to set it up. English. Whoa, that is so cool. I'm excited already. All right, let's go ahead and turn this beast off and go ahead and wrap up more of the wiring. So here we have the wiring for the amplifier. So again, the really cool thing about ordering the radio through Crutchfield is that when you type in the make and model of your vehicle, it actually gives you a list of all the wires and all the other components that you need to purchase along with it. Okay, so this is just the sleeve that goes over top. Alrighty. Okay, so what we're gonna do with the amplifier wires is we have to give it the power source. So we're gonna take the positive wire and we're gonna hook it up directly to the battery, and then we're gonna route it this way, and then it's gonna go in through the hole where the grommet is in the firewall. And then for the black one, we're gonna connect it directly to the ground in the engine compartment and do the same thing, route it directly into the vehicle through the grommet hole in the firewall. All right, so now that we have the amplifier wire routed through the bracket, we're gonna go ahead and strip it and then crimp it to the yellow cord for the amplifier. And then these are nice because they're little heat shrink wraps. So best of both worlds, I suppose. Let's go ahead.
just gonna twist it so that it fits inside the hole. Okay.
Take off some of the excess length so it's not as long.
I'm gonna cut this a little bit. Okay. Now, next we're gonna take our crimping tool. Yellow goes with yellow. Here. And crimp. Okay. Okay, those are pretty tight. Now I'm gonna take my lighter right here, and we're just gonna apply heat so that the heat shrinks. All right, so here we have some of the growing pains of doing repairs and trying things and them not working. So we're actually not going to route the grounding cable through the grommet. We're going to try and ground it to this bar right here. Yeah, buddy. Small hands. So now that we have the grounded and the wire routed behind the bracket, that would be this one here. We're gonna go ahead and connect it to the ground on the radio itself. So I'm gonna take this, do the same thing, twisting it just to make it a little thinner so that it'll fit through the hole. All right, then I'm going to grab my crimping tool, and again, color coded, red, blue, yellow, yellow goes to yellow, and I'm just gonna pop it in. Okay. This one's already pretty done. And it goes. And here it is. And apply heat to shrink. The heat shrink wrap. Okay, so now that we have the power and the ground hooked up to the radio, the next thing that we're gonna do is hook up the speakers. So referencing the manual, rear left corresponds to green, and green was black. And from earlier in the video, we went ahead and we labeled them. So rear left would be these guys right here. And so I have red with a black stripe and then yellow with a red stripe. So that goes to green, and then green with a black stripe. So I'm gonna do green first. Okay,
And we're going to take our crimp tool. Okay. Well, we finished wiring the speaker up, and I was very excited to listen to the radio. But this is the wrong adapter. But we're gonna go ahead and just put her in. I guess I didn't have to do all that. So the next thing that we're gonna do is hook up the steering wheel controls. My car actually isn't equipped with a USB port, so this is the temporary solution. We just routed it through the side. But it gets the job done for now. But what we're gonna do is we're actually going to drill a hole right next to the lighter port here, and then that way it'll be directly in line with the whole radio setup. And we're also going to install a rear view camera. So that'll be really nice too, because I struggle really hard to back up my car into the driveway. So yeah, stay tuned, and we'll see you guys on Subaru episode 2.